Good evening, everybody. We are going to start our meeting. Thank you to everybody that is here tonight, and thank you for everybody that is going to be calling in. Let's start the meeting. We're going to call a meeting to order at 6:18. And we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next item is adjustments, and we have none.
No adjustments.
Okay, approval of minutes, none. And next item is public comments. And I have a list here. We've got a few comments, people that are here to speak. Tracy Hallisey?
No, she's going to be doing the later on. So I think these with that.
Okay, so this one.
Yep.
So there's Kelly Termath,
Okay.
Jean Turner, Debbie Randall, Tammy Hills.
Do you want to speak tonight during public comment? Do you want? Yep.
Yep.
There's the asterisk right there.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Okay. All right, so, Mr. Nelson, this is the reason I'm speaking tonight. There's no mask breaks still in high school. Now, Mr. Nelson, you had a meeting with your administration, the school principals, and such. Now, I told you the vice principal of the high school told me, point blank, they were not going to talk to the teachers and make them do mask breaks. So you knew before your meeting the high school was not going to enforce that. You did know that. You look like you're a little dumbfounded, but I spoke to you before the meeting. You told me you were going to have the meeting. So no mask breaks there. So what now? Are you going to mandate schools, all of them, to do mask breaks? And I'd like to know if you could answer that question right now. You see, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Jameson, Mr. Mapes, and Mr. Rue, I don't know if I said that name right, you all voted for masking our children. Can you all please ask of Mr. Nelson to mandate mask breaks? At least that. Mr. Mapes, you even said last week the kids need the mask breaks. That didn't seem to go far with Mr. Nelson. Can we get an answer tonight?
I'm sure that's something that we could talk about later. Right now, it's your turn to speak, and this is not the time to debate.
Unfortunately, we don't get answers here.
But we'll make sure to go through that later.
So we can get an answer before we leave?
I'll address it in my report later this evening.
And when do we get that report?
In another 2 sections.
2 sessions?
Sections.
The update on the Sanford School Department Safe Return to School and Continuity of Instruction Plan, 2021-2022.
And that's coming out in 2 weeks?
No. So right now is the public comments.
Okay.
And then after that, we don't actually have any communications to discuss. And then the next item on the list is committee reports.
Okay, so
And after that
tonight
is-
it will be...
Yeah, it's going to happen
Oh,
tonight.
okay, got you. I'm new to this, so
Me
thank
too.
you.
Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to speak or share anything? Anybody online? No? Okay. Well, thank you to everybody that is here, and thank you, Tammy, for speaking. Next item is communications. Anything to communicate? No? Okay. And moving on, we have committee reports. We've got construction projects and schedule advisory committee.
Sure, so I'll give an update on the construction projects. Last Thursday, we had a one-year walkthrough as the one-year warranty for Sanford Middle School was about to its anniversary, coming on that 1 year. So with the Maine Department of Education and Harriman, the architect, as well as Structure Tone, as well as the Sanford Middle School administration. They were a really big help. We went Thursday. We spent over a couple hours walking through the building to identify all the areas. Everyone was relatively pleased. There was some items, a small list that Harriman is currently working on that they're going to be sharing with all of the groups, with all the stakeholders. Probably the biggest issue that came out of that is we've had some issues with the flooring of the multi-purpose room. We're aware of those. Those were something that was identified this summer. Unfortunately, they were not able to be rectified this summer before school started. As you remember, in the summer, there was a lot of humidity issues. The company had some staffing issues in addition to that, so they are making arrangements to come over the winter break, the winter holiday break. That's when we have some extended time for them, and hopefully the conditions will be better in terms of the humidity, and so that will be the plan for them to address that over the holiday break in December. So all in all, a really good meeting there. We're in the process of setting up a meeting to do a walkthrough at Sanford Pride Elementary. Same thing with the architect as well as the contractor and the school administration, so that now that school's been open for a few weeks, we can go through to make sure that, see what issues have been identified that may have popped up in that time. Our Harriman representative is not available this week, so we'll be looking at trying to schedule that when she returns next week. Also, at the Margaret Chase Smith School, they are doing a really good job on their punch list, I guess, in terms of what we had. There were just some mechanical items from a subcontractor that we're just waiting for them to be able to give us a final answer on those. And so I haven't heard back, but we're well positioned there as well in terms of having that school be ready. And then at the high school, we have a meeting this Friday to go over some of the mechanical systems that we've had some ongoing challenges with. We're bringing all the players back to the table this Friday afternoon, and to be able to make headway in that area. And then meanwhile, the Sanford School Department continues to do to work on items that we're self-performing the work and then charging back to the project in terms of that. So well-positioned, I think, in all of our projects, either with meetings that we've had or upcoming meetings scheduled.
Okay. That was a nice, short construction update. Very, very strange to have it last only 4 minutes or so.
I'm trying. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions? Okay.
And then next up, I want to give an update on the high school and SRTC Schedule Advisory Committee. We had our second meeting earlier this afternoon. We had our original planning meeting back before the school year began in August. And so we met this afternoon. We're going to try to meet every 3 weeks or so now. Our next meeting is scheduled actually during Spartan time, and that's going to be on October 12th, Tuesday, October 12th. We were able to expand our committee. We did get now more representation from teachers, and we have special education represented. We also were getting more representation from students in terms of that. So we had a productive meeting earlier today. We really focused on kind of educating people on what the history of the schedule was, of what we knew leading into that. And so knowing that our next meeting, and so that was productive, kind of set the stage, because some of the things that we're looking to do for that is, this is not something that we're going to have 1 or 2 meetings. We're really doing an in-depth look at trying to find out what all the needs are, also all the different stakeholder points of view, for that. And so we're really taking the long haul view at this. And I think that's productive. I think that's encouraging in terms of the meetings that we had today. The first meeting we had, as well as another positive meeting again today. The next meeting, we're going to be looking at focusing on Spartan time. That's been piece of a schedule, and we thought that would be something that we can be able to look in to discuss some of the merits of that. But other future topics we'll be looking at as we do this deep dive, we'll be looking at study halls. We'll be looking at how structured a schedule should be. We'll be looking at graduation requirements for that as well, and as well as the impact on SRTC. And so, and then I could see a meeting coming up down the line for us to do some brainstorming on a new schedule. What are those things we want to see? What are those things that we might not want to see? One thing we do know, as we listen to all the various stakeholders, this is going to be challenging. There's no perfect schedule that's out there. If there was, we would probably be out on the lecture circuit because I think all schools are trying to be able to struggle with that question to see how do you meet all the different demands or all the wants and needs of a schedule to be able to do that. So I thought we had some very productive conversation. We're really asking our people that are representative on the committee to go back and talk to their various stakeholders that they represent to be able to try to get that feedback. One thing that came out of today's meeting that was a little bit, I know it caught me a little bit by surprise, is this year we are starting a new schedule at the high school. This is where we're first year that we're doing those enrichment skinny blocks 2 times a week. If you remember, we went from what was a 5th block every day back to 2 days a week. And so knowing that the school year is always challenging when you get off to a new school, getting settled into a new schedule and what that is, and especially when you have a holiday, or on this day only grade 9 is there, and on this day there's no school on Friday. We noticed that the schedule that we have in place for those skinny blocks leads it so that you really have, in the course of a week, 3 different days with 3 completely different schedules. And so one thing we're finding is that that's always an adjustment for people, but we're also finding that that's stressful. That's stressful for our students, and it's stressful for our teachers in terms of trying to be able to get a handle on their schedule. Because I was kind of thinking, oh, great, it's only been a few weeks, but let's try to see how it's going on the feedback for those skinny blocks. And right now, we'll do that, but I think the biggest challenge in front of us is just trying to find some continuity and people getting settled in to a schedule that right now feels like it's constantly changing or people aren't comfortable with it. And so that was one of our takeaways in the meeting. But all in all, a positive meeting. I don't know, Paula, if there's anything that you want to share from your perspective.
No, I thought it was a great meeting. It was wonderful to have the student representation. Aiden, Abigail, and John Paul did such a good job. And I was really pleased to see that we really do have great representation of all the stakeholders. I mean, everything, SRTC, guidance, special ed, parents, teachers of every level, students of every level. It was just great. And the 2 things that we really figured out today, which sounds almost like, of course, that's what you would figure out. But really, the discussion was a really good, deep discussion. And we know that we need some simplicity and we need some consistency, that the staff and the students really, really would appreciate to have some consistency in the schedule. And simplicity without taking away opportunities for any of the student body. So, but it was great. I'm really excited that we're doing it. And it's definitely going to be a long process, but the conversations are good. Okay, any questions about the scheduling committee or anything? Nope. Okay, we'll move on. Superintendent reports.
Sure.
Matt?
So Sanford School Department Safe Return to School and Continuity of Instruction Plan update. Sanford School Department Safe Return to School and Continuity of Instruction Plan 2021-2022 update. As you know, this is something that's been an ongoing agenda item for us to be able to come back and have discussions on this and regular updates to see how it's going. It is a challenging process as we try to navigate a situation that we're bringing all of our kids back to school in person 5 days a week safely. That is the goal that we look for. I do get an update every day from the York County Emergency Management Agency. They kind of track the data and the metrics. Right now, the York community transmission, that 7-day rate, is still considered high, in the high category, and which means that everyone should wear a mask in public indoor settings, and mask requirements vary from place to place, and we want to make sure that we follow local laws, rules, regulations, or guidance. For the school department, as part of our plan that I recommended, that we do require face coverings. Right now, our cases, today's cases on the report were 380. That's up from 339 cases on 9/17, and it's down from 405 last Thursday, but also up from earlier in that week. The cumulative Sanford cases right now, as of September 12th, stand for 1,619, and the cumulative Springvale cases as of September 12th are 379. Today in the Sanford School Department, we had 6 positive cases. That gets us to 39 since school started. We have 3 of our schools that are currently in outbreak status. That's Carl J. Lamb, Sanford High School, Sanford Middle School. The positivity rate hit 7% today. That's up from 6.67% on September 17th, up from 6.27% on the 16th, and also up from in the 5% earlier in the week. New hospital admissions, that's 8. That's also up from 3 last Friday and up from other days last week. Total hospitalized, 207. That's also up from where we were last week. In critical care, that's 79. That's also up as well from metrics last week. And the eligible population fully vaccinated is 77.8%. And the percent fully vaccinated in York County is 68.7% of the total population. If you look at the vaccination rates by zip code, Sanford and Springvale are listed at 86%, but we are in yellow in Sanford because we still have 2,000 or more residents remaining unvaccinated. The estimated school vaccination rates for eligible students, we have not had an update with that since our last meeting. That's still at 44%. The estimated staff vaccination rates, when you start including all of our staff, it gets over 650, including bus drivers, coaches, substitutes. 488 were vaccinated, 103 were unknown, 60 unvaccinated, so that gives us a rate of 74.9% overall. That was as of as Friday, September 10th, and that will be a monthly, we'll continue to post that, or report that, so that the Department of Education can post that monthly for that. I will say that we have, with those 3 schools that are in outbreak status, we did meet with CDC last week. That's something that they offer, is when you have that when you are declared an outbreak, they do put a team and a team meeting together. For that, right now, takeaways from that meeting for me was, one we're noticing with this Delta variant is that it is going through families, probably different from when it was going through the other previous virus with that. So if you do have someone that is a positive case, it would be strongly recommended for families to also quarantine, even if they have some exceptions to that quarantine, either by vaccination for that the recommendation would still be to quarantine, just because that you're seeing the breakthrough cases there. One thing that we are monitoring closely is the school transmission. That's something I was proud. Last year, we didn't have any school transmission. This year, we are looking at that as when you're up to the amount of cases that we have at 39 already in the school year. We're doing our best to kind of track that, to see if we could track some of that back to the transmission, to see if it's school transmission. Also, one of the things that we are recommending too is, rather than any shutdown of a particular school or something where we have to all go fully remote, I think right now we'd want to be looking at smaller pockets within those particular groups. What I mean by that is, rather than going to an issue there, it may be something where a particular team, for example, an athletic team or a particular class may have to be able to look at a quarantine if it reaches that point, rather than saying that we're going to have everyone go fully remote. I think if we are going to have some activities, we want to make sure that our mitigation strategies are something that are continuing to be emphasized. Those mitigation strategies also include the face coverings. I've had ongoing discussions with people. I know earlier in public comment, Ms. Hills talked about conversations in terms of the face coverings and the masking. I had conversations last week because there were concerns that was brought up at the last meeting. I did reach out in terms of our meeting. As I mentioned to Ms. Hills, I was at a point now where I didn't feel that we needed to mandate or require all of those. It was going to be something that was going to be encouraged, strongly encouraged, to be able to still give that in terms of working through some of the uniqueness that goes back within a school and within a teacher's day in terms of, and a student's day, in terms of not mandating that to come back into every class. That communication's been ongoing. I haven't spoken to you recently since that, so it sounds like that's something that's not happening, that we're going to have to do a deep dive into and look at those mass breaks to be able to see if those are happening. Those were something that I had, as we met as an administrative team last week, I had talked about how I was not at this point looking at making it mandatory, but I wanted to make sure that people understood the importance of those. I know as I've been going around the schools, I have seen what I would see would be increased mass breaks, and so I will want to be able to go back and revisit that to make sure that that is still happening, so that we have people that are not, that throughout the day, that there can be mass breaks that come out throughout that day for all of our people with that. Also, I have reached out to York Hospital in terms of looking at when can the face coverings come off, when would be something that we look at for that as far as some guidance or some of those metrics. Dr. Thibodeau, who is their lead person, came back with the things that she looks at, our positivity rate. With that, I mentioned what we're looking at as a state, but also the York County rate is also very high. If you remember, we were back in the beginning of July. We were about 1% or less than 1%. And at that time, I was not looking at requiring face coverings. But as you know, that has been increasing since there. Last year, as a school year, we never got over, we were always around 2%. And so as you look at that right now, that's something that is concerning that we're going to have to look at for that. And then the other piece that Dr. Thibodeau also looks at is hospitalization. When you look at not new hospitalized patients, but also looking at what the capacity is of the various hospitals to be able to do that. So I know this is something that I know we all can't wait to be able to have the face coverings put away in looking at that. But I think right now it would be wise for us, at least here in the short term, to stay the course to be able to look at that. Also, one of the things that can be one of the best, what is recommended from the CDC as a mitigation strategy is vaccination. I do want to let people know that we are holding vaccination clinics at this week at Sanford Middle School for the first dose. We're doing that on Wednesday, and then the 22nd, and then Friday, the 24th, will be at the high school for looking at that. The second dose will be 3 weeks later, back into October 15th. I do want to point out to people that we have received a small number of consent forms. So we have been trying to be able to make sure that we're doing our part to get that information out to people so that they are aware. So I'd want to take that opportunity now to also make sure that if people are aware, that they'd want to be able to make sure they can get those consent forms in for that. And then also, I know a week ago, not last week, but the week before, President Biden announced that he had directed the United States Department of Labor's Occupational Safety and Health Administration, that's OSHA, to develop a rule requiring all employers with 100 or more employees to ensure their workforce is fully vaccinated for COVID-19, or require any workers who remain unvaccinated to produce a negative COVID-19 test result on at least a weekly basis before coming to work. And OSHA will issue an emergency temporary standard to implement this requirement. When it was done initially, we looked at it as a school department thinking that we do not qualify for this. Well, while it does apply to private employers nationwide, the Maine Department of Labor also sought clarification from OSHA about the rules' applicability to public employers, because under a long-standing state law and a 2015 agreement with the federal government known as a state plan, the state of Maine is required to adopt and enforce for public employers all of OSHA's occupational safety and health standards. The state of Maine is one of 26 states and 2 territories to have a state plan agreement with the federal government. So OSHA did confirm with the Maine Department of Labor last week that that forthcoming emergency temporary standard is going to apply to public sector employees with 100 or more employees in the state of Maine, as well as 25 other states. And so these public entities include state, county, and local government, public school systems, the University of Maine system, the Maine Community College system, Maine Maritime Academy, the Turnpike Authority, and sewer and water districts with that. So the Maine Board of OSHA is required to adopt and enforce that forthcoming rule for public employers within 30 days of the rule's release. And the OSHA standards are considered minimum requirements, so states may implement more rigorous standards, but we cannot implement less rigorous standards for that. So OSHA's yet to release it, so that time frame and details of its implementation are unknown with that. But given the importance of this information, that's something that I wanted to share this evening with this group and be able to look at us being able to make plans. So that would be where vaccination would be required, or if you don't have vaccination, you would have to be participating in a weekly test. And one of the things that we are looking for to implement is pool testing, and we're also looking to see if that pool test would be something that would suffice as the testing requirement to be able to allow our people to continue working for the Sanford School Department. And I know Mr. Bouchier is going to be talking more about pool testing momentarily, but are there any questions on the update, on my update?
No questions?
I was curious, has anybody heard when OSHA might come up with that rule? I mean, there's a lot of public comment that goes into that. That can take quite a while.
I haven't been given any, I think what I knew was, I think we all were a little bit worried, but it didn't come in yet. There's still a process. So I don't have an idea on the timeline, but it will be 30 days once that's made official.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, just one comment on that would be, when that does come down from OSHA, just with the amount of staff that we do have unvaccinated and just the amount of work that's going to be on somebody, hopefully not our school nurses, that we can think about, who this will be and if we need additional staffing for the help of organizing, that we're getting those weekly tests done because since we're required to do it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, well then, let's keep moving to enrollment update. Matt?
Okay, so we're getting ready to start our, excuse me, we've just started our enrollment this week. So I wanted to kind of give an update on where we stood for enrollment and also kind of compare it to where we were at a similar time last year. So if you look at our pre-K through grade 4 at our elementary schools, we have just under 1,100 students. That's 1,095. CJL is down 9 from where they were last year. Margaret Chase Smith School is down 12 from where they were last year, and Sanford Pride Elementary is ahead 47 from where they were last year. When you move over to the middle school, we're up 5 students to where we were at this time last year. We have an enrollment of 962. That's a high of 253 in grade 7 and a low of 222 in grade 5. At Sanford High School, we have 1,094 students, just under 1,100. That is an increase of 32 students from where we were last year. They're pretty evenly distributed. That's grade 9, 271, grade 10, 258, grade 11, 276, and grade 12, 289. That gives us a total enrollment of 3,151. And last year, at this time, back on September 16th of 2020, our enrollment was 3,082. So that gives us an increase of 69 students. I do want to point out, though, we still have in that number, there are people that have not shown up to school yet, that we're still waiting. There's usually some factors around that they could be, have moved or transferred schools, and we're just waiting for that information. So there's still probably approximately 15 students there that right now are part of that increase of 69 students for it. In terms of transfers in, we had 229 students transfer in. That comes in from a variety of places. We have some who come in from private school, primarily St. Thomas and Sanford Christian. We also have people coming throughout the state. We had 109, but I want to point out that that includes 21 incoming 9th graders from Acton. We had 47 people transfer into us from out of state. We had 3 people transfer into us from out of the country. We had 3 people transfer into us from charter school, and we also had 71 people transfer into us that were homeschooled last year for that. So that comes back to, and then we also have, when you look at our pre-K and kindergarten, there's 238 people who are new to our district in that. We have kindergarten of 254 this year. If you look at the transfers out, we lost 9 kids to private school. We lost 85 kids to in-state. 42 people moved out of state. No one moved out of the country. We also have charter school. We had 7 people go there. And then we have 25 that are homeschool, but I want to point out that the majority of those homeschool are people that have been homeschooled in the past. And so that is giving you an idea where we are for enrollment in terms of that. The homeschools transfers, I do want to point out that information, that in 2017, 2018, we had 19 homeschool transfers. 2018, 2019, we had 24. 2019, 2020, we had 13. Last year, 2020, 2021, we had 108. Those are 108 people who made the decision to homeschool. And this year, as I mentioned, the number we have right now is 25 for that. So, any questions on the enrollment as far as where we sit currently today? As you know, for us in Sanford, enrollment is important because that's a big driver of the formula for our 279s, our state subsidy report. And so, obviously, anytime we can have increased enrollment, that is a positive for that, for our subsidy.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Amy?
just a quick
Jim?
question, Matt.
John?
On what you were just talking about, the subsidies, is it October that will give us the final number?
Yep, we want to look at our October 15th. So we
October
will
15th,
continue
okay.
to monitor these. So, yeah, it's looking good now, but it's not final until they're going to do it on the October 15th enrollment report.
How have we been, I know last week I had asked just about the free and reduced forms. Do we need a shout out to have any more filled out, or?
Yeah, we're still looking at that. We have same thing until October for
Okay.
that. And so we're in the process of looking at that. I think if, to take the opportunity, that is something that is also another driver of the subsidy. And this year, when we have universal free lunch and free breakfast, that sometimes is not an incentive for people to complete their free and reduced lunch forms. So that is still important to us as a district, though. We want to make sure we're accurately reporting that. That is a driver. So we have put out a socioeconomic form that we're asking all people to make sure that they are completing and turning that back in so we can have the most accurate data for that. So yeah, thank you, Amy. Just another reminder to our families, if you've not already done that, please do so. And also probably we will do our best to reach out to people who haven't, just as a friendly reminder. We're not trying to bug people or pry with that. That is just something that is important to us in terms of our subsidy and our funding.
Okay. Any questions? Any more? No? Okay, well, thank you, Matt. Moving on to director's reports, we are going to have Sanford Regional Technical Center Director Kathy Sargent via Zoom discussing school opening update. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the Sanford Regional Technical Center and the start of our school year, which has been great. It's wonderful to be back 5 days a week with students. We did have one remote day last year, so having students back in the building completely 5 days a week is amazing. That's how career and tech ed was planned to be, and I'm sure every form of education in many ways is better, is enhanced in person. So we have almost 600 students currently, including students in our newest program, which is plumbing. So that's very exciting to have that off the ground. I know there are some school board members who are happy to see that. We have 594 students to date, and that's a little bit of an uptick from the past 2 years. Our numbers are calculated on October 1st, so we've got a few weeks to go to see if we're really at an increased level, but it's very exciting to see our numbers increase at this point. Let's see, we had a number of new students in the building. Of those almost 600 students, 387 of them are brand new to the building. So that's exciting and impressive because those students, we've really tried to put in place a comprehensive plan for introducing SRTC to students starting at young ages, including middle school this year, starting with our middle school camps. And unfortunately, a lot of the outreach that we've done to schools has been limited by COVID-19. And so, for example, one of the things that we do with 10th graders is have them actually come to visit the tech center, which was not in place last year. And then they actually come in person and interview. So both of those things didn't happen last year. And in spite of all that, students found their way to us and stuck with us and have come and actually started with us at SRTC. So we're hopeful and believe that they will stay once they're with us. But it was wonderful that they took that challenge and reached out to come to us. We once they actually were admitted to the program, had instructors reach out through emails personally to students because we were unable to do our step-up day also. So teachers did that outreach, and then also this summer I offered tours to students who hadn't seen the building and might have been a little uncomfortable with that. That's a big step to come to a brand new school, and for some of our schools it's a much bigger environment than they're used to at their high schools. So we did some tours this summer to help folks to just kind of make that transition a little bit. And then last Thursday, September 16th, we held our open house. It was an in-person open house, and we guesstimate, I guess, that about 200 people were in attendance, lots of families. It was great to see. So probably not the numbers that we would normally see for an open house, but definitely still a really solid number. We did our open house in 2 sessions. So we had students who come to us in the AM, which tends to be a lot of our new students, had a really good showing for that. And then our PM students that tend to be our second year students, not as many students and families for that, but that's to be expected because most of them have seen the building and had that opportunity. Some things coming up, we continue our push to help families to make the transition for after us. So post-secondary options, whether they be college or career or going into the military or some other choice that might be a combination of those things. So one thing that we're offering is FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid assistance. With that document, a lot of families get nervous about filling out this paperwork, which is to help families to access student aid for college. So whether it's trade school or a 2-year or 4-year college, we'll be offering that this fall in collaboration with the Finance Authority of Maine, which is a great organization to reach out to for help. We'll do in-person sessions by appointment, and then we're also advertising those sessions that will be done through FAME as a virtual option. So really excited about getting families to be comfortable with that document because it really makes a difference for students to be able to get that student aid. Some exciting numbers around dual enrollment. Dual enrollment is a partnership with our colleges, and what it enables students to do is to earn credits while they're in high school. Of course, they're earning credits with us toward their high school graduation, but simultaneously be earning credit that can be used at the college level. So really neat for students to be able to stay in an environment where they're comfortable, yet start earning those college credits. Right now, we have 8 programs for the fall that are offering dual enrollment. We'll have an additional 1 or 2 that add to that in the spring. So for whatever reason, they delayed their dual enrollment to start until the spring. A lot of those courses are appropriate for just a semester's worth of learning for us because that's what you do at the college level, and we actually have more time with our students than colleges do in any individual class. So students earn their 4 credits for their high school transcript, but also those additional credits through either York County Community College, Southern Maine Community College, or Thomas College for our business program. We have approximately 131 students who are registered for this fall for some kind of dual enrollment. And among those 131 students, there's a total of 606 college credits. So needless to say, there are a number of students that are taking multiple dual enrollment opportunities in some cases. In some programs, there'll be additional credits that they're